What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Nick from Contra Cult Collective and Nitesoil. Thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yep, it's so awesome to have you here. I was just jamming Abusement Park, as soon as I got the promo and everything. It's absolutely awesome. I just really want to know what the thought process was making with this. Was it a preconceived idea to collaborate with so many guests? How did Abusement Park sort of see the light of day?
It's really funny. For a long time, always jammed really enjoyed ignorant death metal and slam, just really simple, primal, brutal, breakdowny music. And I was just like, Frank, well, let's start a band. It could just be a fake band. Let's just put it up on Bandcamp. It doesn't matter. I'll just write some riffs and you got an electronic drum set. Let's not even worry about it sounding good. Let's just do it, get a friend to sing on it, throw it up online just for fun. So that was it. And I literally probably spent maybe 20 minutes on each song in terms of riffs, and some of them Frank had certain ideas and stuff, and I think might have some of my transitions and stuff might have been weird. So he was like, "Man, if I move this around or that," I'm like, "Dude, just do whatever the hell you want with it. Just have fun with it. I want him to have fun too, not just play drums to my riffs." So he started rearranging a few things and got into it as well, and that's kind of how we went back and forth. And it was just really easy, really quick. And I'm who are we going to get to sing on it? And then it just turned into well, let's just look at what friends might want to do it. And that's pretty much what we got on it, is a bunch of friends. And we're let's get someone to do a different one on each one. We didn't really intend it to be some death metal probot or anything like that. It just kind of happened that way. And then, Frank's friends with Will Putney, and however that worked out, got on board to mix it. And, the whole basis of the thing is, though, after getting people involved, is just give it away for free. It's just for fun. And then we decided, if people are going to be paying attention to it, then we might as well generate a little bit of money and put it towards charity. So that's basically what that's about.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool for you guys to do that. And it's funny because before, when I was listening to this album, I was calling it Nitesoil United because it kind of had a Roadrunner United effect to it with all those noticeable guests. But
Sure.
But after what you were just telling me, I'm calling it now the death metal soundtrack to Friends.
Hey, that's cool too. That's funny you bring up the Roadrunner United thing. I remember when that happened. That's that was a really neat idea. And, in hip hop and pop music, there's a lot more collaboration, I feel than, or at least open advertised, obvious collaborations. It's explored more. It was explored a lot in the 60s and 70s with bands too. Everyone was playing on everyone's records and stuff like that. And I think it's really cool. I think now, once we're moving along, after hearing stuff back, I'm okay, well, this next one, take it even a little more seriously in terms of what's going into it, riff-wise and music-wise, and see what we can do with it.
That's awesome. What's funny is because having so many different guests who, collaborating with Black Dahlia Murder and Revocation and Jessica Pimentel from Alekeen's Gun and Ghost or Gost, however people pronounce it. I know you mentioned that the music was written already, but did maybe having all these guests make you guys adjust it even further, or maybe open up your ideas to new musical experimentation?
It didn't really change any of the music. The music was set in stone, and we kind of were just hey, get on here and this isn't trying to be smart. At the time we're we just want to make it as dumbed down and just fun and simple and primal as possible. So write about whatever, scream as crazy as you want, say the most absurd things if you want. It doesn't really matter. I'd say more into that influence, what's going to happen next, more than anything. But it definitely pushed us to be oh, well, this is sounding really good. These demos are sounding really good. The demo is essentially what you're hearing. It's just mixed really well. It's literally the demos,
Okay.
So, yeah.
It sounds like it is a very organic process, and I really like the background. As somebody in the scene and stuff, I've always seen you and Frank at like every show, and I've also seen, if there's a death metal show, odds are we'll run into Trevor or Dave Davidson there or everybody. So it really just seems like this whole project was like very, very organic.
Yeah, and then Frank rallied them together and was like, "Hey, you down to come over and throw some lyrics on this thing? This is what we're doing." They're just like, "Sure." And we're all friends, and that's those guys have a lot of things going on, so it was cool of them to take the time out to do it at all, because Lord knows they, they're busy. So that was I'm very appreciative towards that. But everyone's musical. Everyone, like you said, everyone's into music and into going to shows. Not all dudes, when they're not on tour, go to see shows. You know what I mean? Some dudes just stay recluse. They don't want to go out. They don't want to see that shit. But all those dudes are fans, and hell, Trevor especially. That guy can't get enough of it. It seems it's probably the most knowledgeable, extreme music fan that I know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the ultimate challenge for Trevor is find a death metal band that he hasn't heard of yet. I challenge you all to that.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, you'll need it.
He has those things online where he's putting his, top list of extreme bands and stuff, and, if I'm looking for a new extreme band, I can just go to any one of those posts, old or new, and, there's an abundance of things there's no way I would have heard.
Yeah. Definitely. And being that this was such an organic and easygoing songwriting process, do you feel like that maybe Abusement Park is sort of like a one-time, lightning in a bottle sort of thing, or are you and Frank going to maybe explore with this even further?
Oh, we're going to explore it further. I've already written enough riffs for a full length, a second thing. So we just need to get them together and figure out what goes here and goes there. And, since right now it's still a bi-coastal thing, and like I was mentioning earlier, I'm in Texas right now because of whatever you call this now, pandemic, quarantine, whatever. And but I got a laptop, I brought a guitar, I can play, I can record, so we're definitely going to explore it more. The next one will be a lot more influences, and but will be the same purpose. Raise awareness and money for cancer research.
Awesome. What any specific foundation that you are raising money for? Just so I could put a link in the description for people to follow the charity and check it out to see if they can contribute.
Yeah, it's Cancer Research, I believe is the actual name. I can send you a link. But yeah, we weren't really sure at first. We wanted to broad something that affects a lot of people, and Frank really went through some rough things in the last year, and he lost his father to cancer. We've all lost people to cancer. It affects everybody, so it was kind of a no-brainer once we actually wanted to put it to stone.
Yeah. Definitely, and thank you. As somebody who's lost relatives and close ones to cancer, I appreciate you guys doing that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, instrumentally, could what we be hearing on Abusement Park almost serve as a clear representation on the future direction of Nitesoil, or with the stuff that you're currently writing, maybe you're experimenting a little further?
Well, it was a very simple idea to put the Nitesoil stuff in terms of that first record of okay, this is simplicity is the idea, and make the riffs as brainless as possible, and just brutal. And we listened to a million different bands, and I'm like, well, this sounds pretty good. I want to experiment, use a lot more influences in terms of and on my end, riffing style and stuff. There's just a lot more we can do. And at first, I didn't think anyone was going to hear it. We were just going to throw this on Bandcamp. So, yeah, I don't know. The world is wide open in terms of what to expect. But we listen to a trillion different bands, So, in a bunch of different genres. But it'll always be death metal, and it'll always be brutal. I don't think we're going to get techie or anything, but it's a big world, of extreme music out there, and there's a lot of different types of things I think we can experiment with.
Some gentle ballads.
No ballads.
Yet, at least. Yet. Never say never.
Yeah, okay. Maybe we can do a grindcore ballad or something.
Stranger things have been done in history.
Yeah, I think didn't Anal Cunt do something like that anyways?
What didn't they do at what point in their career? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, because I feel like death metal, when somebody tells me that they're death metal, a lot of times I feel like it's almost kind of vague because, like, oh, is it like Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel death metal, or is it more like At the Gates or Early in Flames? Is it more like Obscura or Death? Like, I was always wondering, like, is it more technical? Is it more melodic? Is it more atmospheric? Is it more raw? Is it more brutal?
Sure.
So
it's a big world. That's kind of what I meant. Answering that last question, this one was, very groove-oriented and based around, like Devourment or Bruria, bands like that, real simple, to the point. There's a lot of, most of the songs on this are, the first 4 strings on the damn guitar. There's a lot more strings on there, so there's a lot more things I can do, but yeah, who knows? Like, there's already some stuff we're working on with the next one that does have a high amount of Morbid Angel influence, and then there's like more Cannibal Corpse, like the song we did with on the Slay to Home thing. So they're all going to be different, but I would expect a lot more riffing on the next one, a lot more parts.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear more. I feel like that's what Abusement Park does, is it leaves people wanting more.
Hope so.
Now, as an artist for you, because being such a prolific artist, like between, Contra Cult Collective and White Widow's Pact and playing with so many other bands, like, is it maybe a different mind frame depending on the projects that you're playing with? Or is there maybe like a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything?
No, they're all different. White Widow's Pact was very organic, jam room band get together, bring in some riffs, jam out the parts, write songs. Contra Cult is it's like taking another part of your personality and focusing on that. And then when we write, also not just the character that it brings out with the music, but the actual way we write is different too, because we get together and we program beat. Travis does most of the beat programming, and it starts there with this. It's riffs and drums, and just like make the parts heavy. So I guess it depends, and all this changes once you're emailing parts. It's not like you can get together and do stuff. So now everything I'm doing is like that. All you got is parts. I have a guitar and a laptop, and you just boop, email them.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
It's amazing. It's amazing how like one little note can just lead to a whole organism of more notes.
Oh, absolutely. And each band's different, and how that I have a bunch of other projects too. I have a black metal project and a bunch of other things that are kind of queued up, which will be released over the next year. And now they're all literally just me in front of a laptop and sending parts or doing it all myself. It's really kind of ridiculous, I'm sure, recording black metal vocals in closets wherever I'm at, or a bathroom. I got a little microphone cable, and it probably sounds insane. I usually wait until everyone's out of the house. But,
hey,
the neighbors here, I'm sure it sounds pretty bizarre.
In the closet, though, I mean, that's a great place to get in touch with your internal darkness, to make it a more external darkened feel, to really bring you into the catacombs of hell, to really unleash a raw energy and power. I just totally improvised that whole sentence, by the way.
Right, screaming into a brack of coats, it's pretty dark.
It's pretty metal, I gotta say. But does one project ever influence the other, or do you try to keep them as completely separate as possible? Because in the end, it is coming from you. It's coming from your heart. You bring the same brain to every project, so.
They're different. because it's just kind of like what feeling's coming out kind of is applied to these different projects, I guess. You know, I have a bunch of ideas spaced out for years on all these files, and I'm putting them together. You know, sometimes it's like, well, this sounds like a country song. Like, why don't I, turn that to a project? There's so many things. So they're I divvy them out to where they belong sometimes. But ultimately, it's just like, if you sit and listen to the guitar tracks, you can tell, I can tell, like, I can't make it sound that different. It's like, oh, that still sounds like I wrote it, so I guess that's good or bad. I try to make them as different as possible, try different guitars, different tunings, try to use different amps or amp sims or whatever, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I feel like, though, as an artist, you always grow and you develop, and therefore the art develops with you. Like, when it comes to getting like inspired to write, do you like go out and look for inspiration, or does inspiration like come to you out of nowhere sometimes?
No, I don't really go looking for it. It kind of just happens. It's one of those things that there's always a riff. I've never sat down and been like, I have nothing. Because I'm constantly listening to tons of different styles of music. I basically have ADD when it comes to music genres. It'll take a left and right turn. It might be listening to, R&B, and then boom, death metal, and then boom, country, and then boom, some random jazz playlist I have left and right. So, because I'm always doing that, there's always something that gets me excited and turns into something. So, yeah, it just hits when it hits, But there'll be a month where I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm not playing a whole lot. I'm not writing or recording, and that's okay.
Yeah. I always envy like the ability for an artist to like lay something down and come back to it later, because I feel like that is so difficult to do sometimes, because like sometimes you try to capture a moment. I feel like that's what you really done with Night Soils, that it really does capture a moment, but like sometimes the longer you're working on something, the harder it is to kind of like maintain that spark, right?
Absolutely. You paint, you understand that, and, you do a bunch of the way I see it, it's like a bunch of half-read books, half-made paintings, half-made songs. At the end of the day, if I notice those around, all they do is just, give me anxiety, essentially. I'm like, I gotta do something about this, or get rid of it, finish the book, finish that, finish this, or, put it on a list of to-dos so I know it's going to get finished. So, yeah, that's my own pressure, I guess, I put on myself to, take care of those things. But yeah, they're sitting on there. There's years of, luckily I had a hard drive that crashed years ago and it had a bunch of old stuff, and I'm glad it's gone, because I don't want to go back and look through everything, because I'd probably have to do that,
What if that song ended up being the biggest hit you've ever made?
Wasn't meant to be, I guess.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I feel like you have a good way of like using, because like in Contra Cult Collective, for example, I feel like you and Travis like really do portray like characters in a way, but I feel like you also like, I feel like music is both a direct extension of who you are, but also an escape from who you are as well.
Sure, exactly. When it comes to that band, it's a complete extension of a part of personality, obviously certain things are highlighted and focused on, but the music's real, means a lot to us, just like Night Soil. It's just a different focus. Maybe you could be in a band and mix all the different things together, and it could be something. Obviously the influences in that band, there are still like death metal riffs. There's certain songs that I would point out, like, you wouldn't even know. Somebody might think it's Rob Zombie influence, but it's like, nah, that's a mid-90s Napalm Death riff that I'm trying to recreate, So a lot of those influences and underground influences always come out, no matter what style. So I guess that's one similarity now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and being that, Frank has played with Meek as Murder and so many other bands, I think one way or another, whether you realize it or not, both your other projects and Frank's other projects could have maybe influenced Night Soil, the way at least that you write and arrange certain things, at least, right?
Sure, absolutely. Definitely in the arranging, because he changed a bunch of things on some of the songs, and it makes sense, because if it's just like just like a few thoughts of riffs that come out of, you know, my mind, and I lay them down, and you give it to a drummer, it might be boring, you know. So it's good to go back and forth. I think everybody drop a little 2 cents in, and then create the song there. Because if not, I mean, I've done that before. You listen to it and you can tell it just sounds too cut and paste. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of his influences came through in the arrangements.
Yeah. And if shows were happening right now, and when they eventually do happen, is there a chance that maybe like we could get like a cool Nitesoil gig at like St. Vitus or something like that, where you'll bring Dave and Jessica and Trevor and everybody else who collaborated with us on stage for like a cool like ultimate jam session, like what we did at the Metal Injection party?
Hey, all that sounds cool. You know, if people like it, you know, if people care, if it means something, and if it's another way for us to, like, you know, even raise more money for a good cause, and I say, yeah. You know, the EP isn't even out yet, but we've gotten a great response. You know, we'll see what happens. You know, we definitely want to extend this idea, and next time get a bunch of different vocalists. You know, right now that's the idea. So, yeah, would be down for something like that. But like I said, it'd be nice if people cared enough to come to the show. So we'll see how it's received.
You'll see me first in line for that show, I can tell you that. But I don't think that should surprise you at that point.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So before we go, again, thank you so much for your time, Nick. Great to finally sit and talk with you about art and, you know, your creative process. And is there just anything else that you would like to promote for any of the projects you're involved with, or any other charities or organizations that you would like to promote, such as cancer research?
There's so much out there. I'd say just everyone support your friends and family and anyone you know that has put a lot of work into art or music or a good cause. And I think now is a very important time to really be conscious of where you're putting your money, because it will help a lot of people.
Absolutely. Go out and make a difference one way or another.
Absolutely.
Yep. The only way we get through this is together.
100%.
Yeah, but thank you so much, everybody. Nick of Nitesoil, Abusement Park, coming out November 6th. Be sure to pick it up then. Support cancer research. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.